A quiet but powerful shift is unfolding in North America. While global attention remains focused on wars in Europe, tensions in the Indo-Pacific, and trade disputes around the world, Canada is making a move that could reshape the balance of power on the continent. Long seen as a close ally, and often heavily dependent on the United States when it comes to defense, Canada has just unveiled a plan that signals something bigger, less reliance on Washington, and far more control at home. The federal government has officially released its new defense industrial strategy. On paper, it's not a law. It's not even the long-awaited, updated defense policy that's expected later this year. It's a roadmap, a 10-year blueprint. But make no mistake, this is much more than a bureaucratic document. It's a clear message to industry, investors, and international partners that Canada intends to rebuild its defense industrial base and strengthen control over sectors it considers vital to national sovereignty. The plan comes with serious money behind it. More than $6 billion over 5 years. But this isn't just about buying new equipment or expanding the military. The real focus is deeper. It's about rebuilding the industrial backbone that supports Canada's defense capabilities. In simple terms, Ottawa wants to make sure that when a crisis hits, the country isn't overly dependent on another nation's supply chains, political decisions, or shifting priorities. The thinking is straightforward. Defending Canada isn't just about the size of its armed forces. It's about economic strength, industrial resilience, and the ability to act independently when it matters most. National security and economic security are being treated as inseparable. If a country can't produce the critical systems and supplies it needs to defend itself, its sovereignty is limited. For years, Canada's defense sector existed, but it wasn't front and center. It wasn't a political priority. It wasn't a major focus for investors. In fact, some financial institutions were hesitant to engage with defense-related businesses. This strategy is designed to change that. The government is signaling that defense will become a cornerstone of Canada's economic and industrial future. The numbers are bold. Right now, only about 40% of Canada's defense procurement spending goes to domestic companies. A large share of the rest goes to American firms. The new goal? Increase the domestic share to 70%. That would mark a major shift in where defense dollars flow. The government is also projecting a 240% increase in defense industry revenues. Small and medium-sized businesses, which make up the majority of Canada's defense sector, are expected to see more than $5.1 billion in additional revenue. Defense exports are projected to rise by 50%. And perhaps the most eye-catching figure, 125,000 new jobs. To put that into perspective, the entire Canadian defense industry currently supports around 80,000 jobs. Adding 125,000 more would more than double its size. These wouldn't just be traditional military roles. They would include engineers, software developers, skilled tradespeople, researchers, and specialists in cutting-edge technologies. So, where is this investment going? The strategy identifies 10 so-called sovereign capabilities, areas where Canada wants strong domestic control. These include aerospace, ammunition, digital systems, in-service support, protective equipment, sensors, space technologies, specialized manufacturing, training, and simulation, and uncrewed or autonomous systems, including drones. Some of these areas stand out. The emphasis on autonomous systems reflects what modern warfare looks like today. Conflicts like the war in Ukraine have shown how critical drones and unmanned systems have become. Ignoring that reality would leave any military behind. Ammunition is another key focus. Across NATO, there's growing recognition that countries need control over their own ammunition supply. In a major conflict, relying on foreign suppliers could create serious vulnerabilities. Canada's strategy directly addresses this, including plans to begin domestic production of nitrocellulose by 2029, a crucial component in explosives and ammunition manufacturing. That's not a small detail. It signals a serious effort to bring critical pieces of the defense supply chain back inside Canada. The more control a country has over essential materials and production, the more flexibility it has during a crisis. The strategy also highlights the concept of dual use. These are technologies that serve both military and civilian purposes. A drone, for example, can deliver medical supplies to remote communities or be used in combat operations. Digital systems developed for defense can also support commercial industries. By emphasizing dual-use technologies, the government is making a broader case. Defense investment isn't just about war, it can drive innovation and economic growth across society. Beyond manufacturing, the plan calls for increased investment in research and development, stronger ties with universities, and workforce training initiatives. The goal is to build an ecosystem that fuels innovation over the long term. The National Research Council will play a role, and the government is aiming to ensure that graduates coming out of Canadian schools have the skills needed for this expanding sector. Another notable feature is the idea of supporting champion firms. Select companies that would receive enhanced backing through procurement pathways or funding access. This signals a more hands-on industrial policy approach, where the government actively shapes which companies become major players in the defense space. But what happens when Canada can't build something on its own? The strategy lays out a clear order of preference. First, try to build it domestically. If that's not possible, pursue partnerships with trusted allies. Only if neither option works should Canada simply buy equipment outright on the open market. The allies mentioned include European countries, the United Kingdom, and partners in the Indo-Pacific. The United States is referenced only briefly. It's not excluded, but it's no longer the default choice. That subtle shift says a lot. This isn't about cutting ties, but about reducing dependence. Partnership, in this context, means more than just purchasing equipment. It means knowledge transfer, intellectual property sharing, and industrial collaboration. One example involves Canadian shipbuilders working alongside Finnish expertise in icebreaker construction, with Canadian workers learning advanced techniques abroad and bringing that knowledge home. Still, there are open questions. While the strategy outlines ambitious targets, many of the timelines are vague. Phrases like spring 2026 or summer 2026 appear without detailed breakdowns of specific contracts. Industry leaders have largely welcomed the plan, but they're also looking for clearer execution timelines. There's also the question of what qualifies as a Canadian company. A preliminary indication suggests that companies generating at least 70% of their product value within Canada would qualify. That could include foreign-owned subsidiaries, as long as the majority of the economic value is created domestically. Political risk is another factor. Long-term strategies depend on consistent leadership and commitment. Changes in government, either in Canada or in the United States, could shift priorities. Global tensions could ease or they could intensify. The strategic environment that drives this push today may not look the same in 5 or 10 years. Even so, the core message is unmistakable. Canada is trying to strengthen its sovereignty by strengthening its industrial independence. A country that cannot produce the systems it needs for defense does not have full strategic autonomy. This is more than a military spending plan. It's an attempt to reshape the country's economic and industrial foundations, reinforce domestic supply chains, expand exports, and align national security with economic growth in a unified vision. If successful, it could significantly alter Canada's role in North America. By gradually reducing reliance on the United States in critical defense areas, Canada would gain greater strategic flexibility. It's not about confrontation, it's about balance. The impact could be transformative. A revitalized defense sector could become a major engine of economic growth. New technologies could emerge. skilled jobs could expand, and Canada could respond to global crises with greater independence. The big question now is execution. Ambitious goals require coordination between government, industry, academia, and international partners. They require sustained political will and disciplined spending. What's clear is that Canada has made a calculated move. In an era defined by geopolitical uncertainty and competition over critical supply chains, Ottawa is betting on greater self-reliance. Whether that bet pays off remains to be seen. So, what do you think? Is this the beginning of a new chapter in Canadian sovereignty? Could reducing dependence on the United States reshape the power dynamics of North America? Share your thoughts, and stay tuned as this story continues to unfold. See you next video.